Charlie Mason, Vietnam, United States Marine Corps. Charlie entered the Marines in 1968 right out of high school at 19 years of age. He served in Vietnam with the 2nd Battalion, 1st Marine Division as an infantryman. I interviewed Charlie in Abington, Maryland, November 29, 2006. It's been a while. Charlie's a great guy, one of my heroes. Such an inspiration as you watch his story. He was wounded severely in a blast, about killed him. He lost both of his legs and his arm, and he tells his story today. It will inspire you folks. Get the grandkids, get the children around here. We need to hear these stories. You know, history is best learned from those who were there, and I've been fortunate the last 20 years to interview over 1,000 veterans across North America and parts of the world, and we're bringing you their stories now one by one. My documentary series contains 12 films from Vietnam, World War II, and Korea, and these stories are the complete interviews that I did with the veterans. And this particular story is being sponsored by Brandon Glidden. Brandon, thank you. God bless you. Thank you for your patriotism and your service to our country. If you'd like to sponsor one of these stories, please contact me. There's information in the video description and in the comment section of the video. I would greatly encourage you to do so and become a part of this work, take ownership in it. The viewership of this channel has just exploded over the last couple of months, and I'm glad that's happened finally, because we need to hear these stories, folks. We're fighting for the same freedoms in our own country today that our veterans fought for. Most of them are gone now. My ranks are growing thin. So I leave it at that. Charlie Mason, God bless you. I love you, Charlie. I salute you. Semper Fi, brother. I hope to see you soon. And I'm proud to share your story with others. God bless you. '69, you said?
Yes.
You're 19?
No, I went into the Marine Corps right out of high school in '68.
Okay. And
I was 19.
19. And I asked you about what your thoughts were about Vietnam at the time. I mean, the country's involved in war. I mean, what were your thoughts going in? You want to go? Did you feel a strong sense of duty?
Oh, absolutely. My father was in the military in World War II, and I don't know if that was the main reason, but I just felt that your duty as a patriotic citizen, you needed to stand behind your country. And I felt that what we were going there for was to help those people have the right to decide what kind of government they wanted. And if I could help, that was what I was there for.
And the reason we went into Vietnam originally was why? Communism or?
Well, I think communism and the fact that the people of the South wanted to be separate from the North and to decide what they wanted in their country and in their government. And the North said no. And so they ended up with, now I know that we ended up over there militarily after our advisors and stuff, but you have to be willing to do it all, or you can't just go over and say, oh, well, it's not going to work, we're out of here. So I think it made a difference. Even the fact that we didn't win, we made a difference of the fact that we were there and tried.
Why do you think they refer to it as an unpopular war?
Because of the people back here were seeing things on the news and hearing things and being shown atrocities that they never seen before, and it made them, with their sons and husbands and fathers over here, they wanted them back. It's the same with the Iraq war now. They wanted them back. They want them back because it's an unpopular war. They didn't think there was a winning possibility, So why not bring our boys home?
So you're 19 years old, never been in combat. You've been through Marine Corps boot camp.
Yes.
I mean, do you feel like you're invincible? I mean,
Oh, absolutely. When I graduated from boot camp, I came home for a 30-day leave before I went to my next duty station, which would have been Vietnam. And absolutely, you think you're invincible. I still think that. But, and then the training that you get makes the difference because you're trained in all aspects of war and in use of weapons and protection and doing everything to keep your men safe and to be able to come home.
now what's your rank at this time? PFC?
No, I was only a private E1.
And were you specifically, I know all Marines are riflemen, but was that your MOS or the
Yes,
job at the time?
I was an 0311,
Okay.
small arms proof director.
Okay. All right. So can you tell me, okay, 30-day leave, you go, and then you're headed to Vietnam.
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me what you remember about going in country for the first time, or you got off a plane, what you felt, what you smelled, and just reminisce a little bit about that?
Well, when I flew over there, we landed in Da Nang, and it's just like any other commercial flight that I had ever been on. You look out the window and to see what the terrain looks like and what everything is like. And I noticed that everything was bunkers, and everybody had a weapon. And I thought I was going to get shot getting off the plane. I thought, because I had no idea how hostile or not it was. And the first thing that gets you is the heat and the humidity. And then you look around and people are moving all around and stuff, and you have no idea what you're doing or where you're supposed to go. And somebody will come over and tell you, okay, you go over there. Somebody will pick you up later. So I was there one day before they picked me up, take me to my unit. And when they picked me up the following day, I thought I was in a rough area when I got there. Well, where I was going was the end of the road. So they picked me up in a Jeep, and we drove to the end of this road, and that was where my unit was. And that was scary because I'm like, well, wait a minute, we're no longer anywhere near anything. And we were out basically in the jungle.
Yeah. Hold that thought real quick. We'll keep it growing here. I want this interview to be just right. I want it to look right and to sound right, so I apologize. I'm taking a little extra time as we get into this now. Okay. As you talk, I'm going to try to think. I try to imagine this. It's like going on a roller coaster ride sometimes with some of these guys. But you're in country. You're 19 years old. You're a Marine. Tell me about who you're with, and as you begin your tour. I mean, engaging the enemy in weapons and just I guess. And I want you to capture and remember just how you were feeling at the time and what you were thinking and what your thoughts were even towards home. So just walk me through as you're into Vietnam now.
Okay. When I got to my unit, my outfit, I was sent to Golf Company, 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines, 1st Marine Division. I was in 3rd Platoon, Charlie Squad. I was a new guy. So when you're the new guy and you stand out because your uniform's clean and new, and so everybody knows that you just got in country. So you try to meet someone so that you can hang out and not be that outcast in a way. So I met a couple of guys and started asking them what it was like over there, and they told me that we were there for search and destroy missions. So my unit went out into the jungle to look for the enemy, to find them and kill them. And then we normally went out for 2 weeks at a time because that's all the food and ammunition and everything that you can carry. And then after 2 weeks, if we hit the enemy at all while we were out, then we were in firefights and so forth. And if not, even after 2 weeks, if not, we came back in for 2 or 3 days rest, and then we went out for 2 more weeks. And that's what we did over there.
Who were we fighting? The Viet Cong, the North Vietnamese army?
Well, we were fighting both. We were fighting the Viet Cong, were the smaller units of men. There may have been as little as 2 or as many as 10. But they never had uniforms. They wore the black pajamas. Now the North Vietnamese army, the NVA, they had everything we had. They had all the equipment. They had all of the uniforms and all of the stuff that we had for our army. But their biggest concern was how many of us there were, because the more of us there were, the fewer of them we saw, because they couldn't overcome our forces. So we would send out smaller units in order to draw them in. Like we would send out a platoon, which is 50, 60 guys, and then once you get out in the jungle, we would send single squads out looking for them. Now, a single squad may be 15, 18 guys. So if you got 18 guys and the enemy sees you and there's 50 of them, they think that they can beat you. But we were in the Marine Corps, and it didn't happen. I mean, we had casualties, but we never lost any of the battles we were in. And it meant that our time over there in the jungle was limited only by how much we could carry and how long we could stay out. But I went on different operations also when I was there, for where the whole battalion would go out, and we would go to an area that was supposedly had a large concentration of enemy that were trying to move toward Da Nang. And we would be on this operation depending a month and a half. And that was strange because I always would rather go out on the platoon size. When you're on the big battalion size operations, you kind of get lost in the shuffle. And you do a lot of mundane things that we didn't think we had to do, because we weren't there to fill sandbags. We were there to find the enemy. And that made it different.
At what point did you hear the term that you grow up, you know, all these adjectives to describe war and the baptism under fire? At what time did that happen to you in Vietnam, where it became a reality that you're in war and those are real bullets? Did that ever dawn on you, or you just...
I think it did in my first firefight, because you never know when it's going to happen. They tell you that it's definitely going to happen. But during my first firefight, I realized that this is for real, that, you know, there's no going home. But at the same time, I felt my training and my experiences from the military wouldn't let me get through and let me come home. And I think that it made all the difference. I think that's why I was able to come home.
Well, tell me about going into combat. I mean, what does it sound like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? And then watching maybe your buddies get wounded, or, you know, and you're shooting the enemy. I mean, describe combat to me.
Well, when you're in the jungle and you're searching for the enemy, when you find them, normally, in my situation, it was all of a sudden. You never really knew where they were going to be. And when it happened very fast. And the orders would come to, you know, turn to the right and march on them and shoot until we overcame the enemy. And you did things that you never thought you would do, you know. I mean, these people were shooting at you. Your natural reaction would be to hide. But you can't. That's your job over there. It's not to hide, it's to take out the enemy. And it's really, I don't know, like the first time I got wounded, I was hit in the back with shrapnel from a mortar. Now, I thought it killed me because I had never been wounded and I didn't know what this experience was like. And when it blew up and I went flying through the air, I said, oh my God, I'm dead. I said, I'm dead. I can't believe it. I'm dead. And then I realized you can't talk after you die. So I wasn't dead, and I covered my head and waited until the mortar stopped and called for the corpsman, but he didn't come. So I finally realized that other people had to be hurt. So I put my own battle dressing on. You wet them before you put them on so they don't stick to you. And so I tied it on and I went over, and one of my buddies, Butch Henshaw, was hit also about the same way I was. So I went over and helped him put his battle dressing on. And we went over after that and started helping others because there was a lot of us wounded. And it's strange because it's almost natural when this happens. You don't think of your safety and your well-being when things are going on that is affecting your other guys in your squad and in your unit. You're trying to help everybody live and at the same time prevent the enemy from overrunning you. So all of these things are going through your mind, but you don't think about them that way. It just happens too fast. The first firefight I was in was just, it was over before I realized what was going on. And I don't know, you get a different look on mortality also, because I've seen guys that were over there for their whole tour, and at a certain point in that tour duty, you become invincible, and you don't worry that something's going to happen to you. You can't ever say that something's going to happen to you, because it will. And I never thought I'd get hurt. I never thought I would get killed. Never, ever did I think that I would get killed. And when I got hurt the first time, and I was in the hospital, that was a strange time because I was only there for 2 weeks. I had shrapnel going in my back from a mortar, and I was in the hospital 2 weeks because they have to leave it open because of infection. Anyway, after 2 weeks, they sent me back to my unit. That was kind of strange time because it's like, well, I thought I was going home if I got wounded. But, depending on how long the wound took to heal, depending on whether you went home. I mean, I know guys that were wounded up to 3 times. Mm-hmm. If you're wounded 3 times, you automatically go home. But
so you're in combat. I mean, you these firefights, a couple of weeks and stuff. And I mean, how are you doing mentally? I mean, are you doing okay? How are the other guys doing? And are you fearful? Are you still got that invincible attitude? I mean, just as a young man, I'm intrigued by what you experienced, because that's something I never had to do. And here's a question too: are you conscious of what you're fighting for? Are you fighting for God and country, for yourself, for survival? I mean, what's going on in your head?
I think once you get there, you're not really. You're fighting for yourself, in a sense, because you want to come home. You know that you're there to help these people create their own government and do what they want with their country. But it gets lost in the shuffle because I was constantly going in and out of the jungle. We got to know what areas were safer than other areas. So you became somewhat laxed in certain places and not have that constant fear. other places, you knew the enemy were there. And you had to, that you were going to be in firefights and that something was going to happen. But you got complacent, I think, in a way. I mean, my buddies in my squad, everybody does their own thing. My one buddy, he never wore anything but a pair of shorts when we were in the rear. And he always laid out in the sun. Another guy got into music, played music and listened to tunes. Each person had their own way of release and of dealing with being there. When you went into the jungle, we were all dialed into that. We weren't thinking of home. We weren't thinking of our girlfriends. We weren't thinking of anything but where we were going and what our job was. Because you couldn't do anything about that. And you had to be 100% when you went out in the jungle. I don't know. I was very fortunate. I made rank pretty quick over there. I had a lot of different jobs while I was over there. I was a point man for a while. I was a tunnel rat. I was a squad leader. I went over as a private. I came back as a sergeant. You had to learn these different jobs, though. I mean, you didn't know any of them when you went over there because you were just an infantry rifleman. But like walking point was very stressful. And you could only walk point for a few months because you got too laxed after that and you missed things. And the same with being a tunnel rat. Now, I was big for a tunnel rat, but it just so happened that when I became the tunnel rat, the one that was actually the tunnel rat was on R&R, so nobody wanted to go down this tunnel, and you can never go by them. You can't just leave them like there's nobody in them. So I said, well, I'll go down the thing. I said, you know, if it'll get us out of here any quicker. So I went down this tunnel. I don't know what went through my mind, but anyway, I took a 45 and a flashlight, put earplugs in, and went down this tunnel. Now, I was very fortunate that no one was in it that time. And out of all the tunnels I went in, which I would say there were 8 or 10 different tunnels, only twice I met the enemy. Once he was already dead because he had been wounded and they'd left him. The other time I had to shoot the guy because as I went into the tunnel, he was coming out. And you don't really see them before you, or you don't hear anything before you see them. It's just like they're there, and it's who reacts first, in a sense. And I had a 45 pistol and he had a rifle. Well, he can't maneuver the rifle in the tunnel, and I could. And I shot the guy, I'd say, from me to you, 7 times. Well, you shoot until you run out of bullets, which you carried a lot of bullets, but in a tunnel situation, you only had 7 because that's all the gun held. But I shot the guy and I crawled out of the tunnel, and I told my squad leader that there was a gook down there and that I killed him. And he told me I had to go back down and drag him out. I said, what are you talking about? And I said, I killed him. You go down and drag him out. But that was the thing. I mean, we had a big thing on body counts, too. So I went back down the tunnel, dragged him out, and he had his body count. But a lot of these things you volunteer for, like tunnel rat, they couldn't make you do that.
Sure.
And mine just happened to be one of the times when I wanted us to keep moving through the area, and I took on the responsibility. But somehow you don't get rid of that responsibility. They go, well, you did the other one, you can do this one, you know. So, but the hardest thing, I think, one of the things that I tried not to do was become friends with other people, because when you'd see your friend get killed or hurt really bad, shows you your mortality, and it makes you have that concern for yourself. And I saw several of my friends killed and wounded. But you can't dwell on it. You can't let it get in you, because it just makes you not be able to do your job the way you need to. And when I was hurt the second time, my buddies that were in my squad, now I didn't know how bad I was hurt the second time.
You talk about your missing your arm and your legs.
Right.
Just walk me into that. Tell me where you were, what was happening, and what resulted in that accident.
Okay, we were on an operation called Pipestone Canyon. There was a large concentration of NVA on this piece of land that was, it was an island, but it was surrounded mostly by a river more than anything, but it was like 3 miles wide and 5 miles long. Our battalion and several other units, Marine units and Army units, surrounded the island. We were supposed to go in and get the enemy off of this island. We had been on this operation for a couple weeks, and the Army engineers had already come in and started clearing areas with bulldozers and stuff. They started complaining because snipers were shooting at them while they ran their bulldozers. Well, we didn't like them. You know, it's that inter-service rivalry thing, I guess. But to us, they seemed like they were whining. But our platoon commanders called the squad leaders up and told me that he wanted me to take my squad and cross the river and see if I could find any of the enemy and if they were where they were coming across at nighttime. So I took my squad and we went down to the river, and as we crossed the river, I told them half of my squad I sent to the right and the other half I got on line, because when we crossed the river there was elephant grass. Well, elephant grass is just real tall grass, but it's very hard to move through, and I knew that there was a trail up ahead, and I felt that if we were on line moving through it, it would be better if we engaged the enemy. And the other half of the squad I sent around to be in like an L formation so that we would have them in a crossfire. And sure enough, as we approached the trail, there was a NVA patrol coming down the trail. So we got into a firefight. And during this firefight, this hand grenade landed at my feet. Now, you don't have too much time to make a decision before this thing goes off. And you can't, I had no cover to hide behind. I couldn't run fast enough to get away from it. I thought I had enough time to get rid of it. And when I bent over and got it in my hand, it went off. And it picked me up, and I remember it throwing me through the air. I remember hitting the ground. It all seemed like it was in slow motion, but it only took an instant. And when I hit the ground, I remember spitting out teeth. And in my mind, I was calling the corpsman. And the corpsman was on me almost immediately, working on me. I didn't know how bad I was. I knew I was hurt, but I couldn't see, so I didn't go into shock that way. And so I remember him working on me, and I remember the helicopter coming to pick me up. And they put me on the helicopter, and I remember the flight back to the hospital. But when the helicopter landed, I went unconscious. And that was June the 22nd. I woke up in Philadelphia Naval Hospital in October. So, but I also found out that they kept me under because of the transportation and how far I had to be travel and all that. But when I woke up, that was when I realized I was missing both legs and my arm. And I had a head injury because shrapnel had went into my head here, and so they had to cut my head open around here to get the shrapnel out. And I was fortunate that way. Because of brain injury, I only lost my sense of smell, so I thought that was pretty good. And but I didn't, after this happened, I lost track of everybody in Vietnam because I was unconscious and the injury and all that. And it took me 35 years to find these guys. But I finally found them, and I found my radio man, my fire team leader, and one of the guys in my squad that were there that day. And when I finally got back with them, I asked them what happened that day, because I thought certain things happened that they said absolutely did not happen, that I wasn't talking, I wasn't able to communicate with the corpsmen or anybody else. And they were the ones that helped put me on the chopper. And they all thought I had died because of how severe my wounds were, and plus the head injury. And but now we get together every year and just hang out and tell war stories.
Where do you get together?
Well, it depends. Like, my unit had a reunion in Charleston, South Carolina, 4 or 5 years ago. And I had been going to them for years, but looking for these guys, but none of them were ever there. Well, because of the internet and a lot of things, we all got invitations to this reunion, and we all showed up. And a lot of us didn't know how we were going to react to the others, because of our wounds and because of the time and a whole lot of things. But it was like time had stopped. It was so incredible.
How did this injury change you, Charlie? I mean, from that young invincible Marine to triple amputee, how did that change you? And what were your thoughts when you woke up and realized all this? Were you bitter? I mean, walk me through some of this.
Well, when I woke up, it was kind of strange, because when I woke up in Philadelphia, one of the guys on the ward I was on, and the ward I was on was all amputees. One of the guys on my ward came over to my bed in his wheelchair, and he was missing both of his legs. Well, I knew him in Nam. His name was Plachinsky, and he had lost both his legs after I did, but had recuperated enough and had been back before I got there. And he was saying, "Hey, man, what's going on?" And I said, "Hey, what happened?" And he stepped on a landmine, I think. He said, "But there's another guy that knows you down in our ward." And I said, "What's his name?" And he said, "Jerry Lynch." Well, I went to Vietnam with Jerry Lynch. Well, Jerry lost both of his legs, and one above the knee and one below the knee. I said, "Yeah, I know Jerry." Well, ended up, I knew 2 or 3 of these guys. My first time going to occupational therapy, I saw a guy on the other side of the therapy room, and he was missing both his legs and most of his fingers. Well, that was Lou Puller. That was Chesty Puller's son, which was my platoon commander when I first went in the country. And it just amazed me, because I don't know, I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of strange. They don't let you have time to sit around and think about what happened to you. You're still in the Marine Corps in the Naval Hospital until they discharge you. So you still had to do stuff for yourself, even though you're missing things. You had to make your own bed. You had to take a shower and clean yourself up, eat your meal, and then you had to leave the ward. You weren't allowed to just sit around. I thought I was a very lucky person that I lived, that I had lost 3 limbs, I had a head injury, but that I could still think for myself, and that I made it back. And that was the whole thing. It was making it back, no matter what happened to you. And I feel very, very lucky that I was able to live through it. And I think it made me a better person. I mean, I wanted to do things in my life before I was hurt, but I wanted to do the same things after I was hurt. And at first, they kept telling me that I was going to be limited because of my situation and my disability. I said, but wait a minute, I don't want to be a ski instructor. You know, I want my own business. I want to go to college. I want things in my life that I wanted before. And I don't think that what happened to me should make me not be able to have those things. And I also told him, I said, and you're supposed to be there supporting me. But I never lost sight of that, of what it was up to me to be able to get these things. And I knew that I was in the hospital. I was going to be in the hospital a long time for my wounds to heal. But I went to the therapies and I learned how to do everything over again. And I didn't let it make me a different person than I was. I still love the Marine Corps. And I talk to my buddies all the time. I said, you know, if they'd let all of us ex-Marines go back in the Corps and go over to Iraq, it wouldn't be but a couple of weeks and we'd be out of there. But I don't think I was ever really bitter. I don't think it was someone else's fault that I got hurt. I knew what the story was going in. I knew that I had these possibilities, but I also knew I was not a different person after I got hurt. And I was very lucky. I did go to college. I met my wife at college. I was in the hospital 27 months. I should have only been in a year, but I came home on a weekend pass and I got hit by a car in my wheelchair and broke my right leg, what I have left of it. So I had to stay in and have 9 more operations to fix it. So I think I'm a very lucky person. But at the same time, I didn't let that stop me from pursuing what I wanted in my life. I mean, when I met my wife at college, we've been together now 33 and a half years. I don't know too many Vietnam veterans that their marriage has lasted that long. And not that there aren't some, but I mean, not that I'm better than anybody either, don't get me wrong. I'm not, but I enjoy my life. And I didn't let it change who I was, I don't think.
Tell me about being a Vietnam veteran and having been wounded like you. Tell me about freedom and the price of freedom.
It's what it's all about. You know, that's what this country was started with, and what we have the greatest country in the world. And if we're not willing to do whatever it takes to keep that freedom, then it was all for nothing. I mean, I'm a very patriotic person. I would go back in now, you know. I mean, I never questioned my patriotism. I was very gung-ho as far as that goes. I think it's sad when you see things on the news and you hear things about people questioning that freedom. It's like, where does that come from? I just don't understand that. And I've been around. I've seen a lot of things in my life. I've done pretty much everything I've set out to do. I had my own business. I've taught a substitute. I was a substitute teacher for a few years. I worked in an auto parts store for many years. So I didn't just give up and, you know, let the government take care of me or feel sorry for myself. I mean, I know that a lot of people handle things differently, or everybody handles things differently. I'm very, very lucky. And
what does the American flag mean and represent to you as a veteran?
what we fought for, that's our symbol. That's what this country is all about. And I have a flagpole in my house, in my front yard, and it shows that you stand behind your country, and that's our symbol to show the world that we are free and that we do deserve being looked at and emulated, because everybody else wants it. They just don't know how to get it, I think.
Well, your story's amazing. I mean, how long were you in country before you were wounded like this and had to be taken out?
6 months.
That was it for you.
Yeah.
So you're 20 years old maybe at that point? Or
Yeah, I just turned, the first time I was wounded, I was still 19. That happened May the 5th. My birthday's May the 15th. And I got hurt the second time, June the 22nd. I just turned 20.
Did you have any other interaction with the helicopters while you were there, like going into landing zones, or was it just mainly jungle fighting and you never had to?
Only a few times. I did have to, we were helicoptered in a few different operations when there was a large group of us that we needed to secure an LZ, a landing zone, and establish a base camp and that kind of thing. I didn't do it very often. I mean, we didn't, most of the time we walked everywhere we went.
Were there drugs used in Vietnam?
Fabulous drugs. Now, don't get me wrong. I never really dealt with much of that because of being in the jungle all the time, and you can't lose that edge. And I know guys that did drugs over there, and they were very prevalent. I mean, there was all kinds of drugs: pot, opium, heroin, coke, all of it. And it was very inexpensive because it's from there, and they didn't have laws against it. And most of the fellas that I knew that did any of the drugs were guys in the rear that didn't go out in the jungle. Some guys that did it, that went in the jungle. See, I told all the guys in my squad that if I ever caught them doing drugs and we were in the bush, that I would kill them, because they were putting my life in jeopardy for their stupidity of doing the drugs. If they wanted to do them when we were in the rear, that's their business. I could have cared less. But you can't go out in the jungle doing drugs. I don't care even if it's drinking. You can't do it. You're putting your life on the line. And I mean, you may not hit an enemy, but if you do, you got to know what you're doing. You have to be 100%. And I mean, I experimented with them, don't get me wrong. I tried a couple different things. But I knew that was not going to work out because of being in the jungle like I was. And I waited until I got hurt and came home. Then I tried stuff. But I never really got in any hard drugs.
Have you been to the Vietnam Wall?
Yes, I have. I helped collect money for that back when.
Remember the first time you maybe went after it was built, how you felt?
That's a heavy place. I know several names on that wall, and it's hard going there. I've taken other veterans that couldn't go, but because I went with them, they were able to go and see it. It's a very, very incredible monument, memorial, and I do a Vietnam class in local high schools here, and I take in things that I had in Vietnam, my uniform, my gear and stuff, and food. And I talk to the history classes and I tell the kids about my experiences in Vietnam. Now, I also tell them, because when I first started doing this, some of the kids' fathers had been there and didn't talk about it. I said, look, I don't want you to go home and say, Dad, this guy with no legs and no arm is talking all about it and nothing happened to you. What's your story? I said, that ain't what I'm here for. I said, your father has the reasons, or your brothers or whoever. I said, and I'm relating my experiences. And it works out really nice. The kids are very hungry for the information. And I still do it. I wear my uniform, I wear my dress blues, and I still fit in them, which all of my buddies hate, because everybody changes.
Charlie, what should people remember about Vietnam?
That we were there, that we went there for the right reasons, and that the men that were lost there weren't lost in vain, that they aren't forgotten. That's part of the memorial, but you can't be naive and think that there aren't troubles in other parts of the world and that we're not going to help change the way the world is. I mean, you can do anything here, and that's just fantastic. I think that's just incredible. But I don't know. I remember all my buddies. I remember a lot of the guys on the wall, and I talked to friends that knew them before they were over there, and it's like they're still here in a way. I hope they remember that I was around when I'm gone.
When you were fighting in Vietnam, you made sergeant. Were you over a platoon or?
No, I was a squad leader. I was. It was maybe. Well, it varied because of mortality rates, but it was between 15 and 18 guys, and you had 2 fire teams, and your fire team leaders, when we would go on a patrol, I would get the fire team leaders together and tell them where we were going, what we were doing, how this was going to go down, and then they told their men so that everybody knew where they would be on the patrol. My promotions were combat promotions because you don't make rank real fast in the military. And for only being in Vietnam 6 months and making it from E1 to E5 was pretty incredible. But I never looked for the rank. I did things to protect me and to keep me safe. And someone thought that I did a good enough job that I should be put in charge of keeping other guys squared away.
When you picked up that hand grenade, what was your rationale? To throw it out of the way, or to protect your buddies, or what?
A little of both. It was an American hand grenade, and then normally when we were taught in boot camp in grenade training, you have 3 to 9 seconds to throw it after you pull the pin. Well, I thought I still had a couple seconds after the guy had thrown it.
One of your guys threw it?
No, one of the enemy.
They threw it back?
Well, they had our stuff too. So, but it was during the firefight. Even if it was one of our guys, I wouldn't have known that. But all I saw was the grenade, and I had like instant to decide what I was going to do. I didn't think I could get away from it without being killed. But I thought if I threw it, it would be further away, and I may have only gotten wounded from shrapnel. When it went off in my hand, I was bent over, so all of the explosive force went to my legs, my arm, and my face, because those were the only things exposed. I had a flat jacket on and stuff protecting my chest. And the head wound was the biggest concern of the corpsman, because without that, the rest of the wounds wouldn't have mattered. But the fact that I was hurt like that, I never thought that I was not going to come out of it. I never, I was invincible. But it was just everything on this patrol had went exactly like I had planned. Even coming down to the firefight. Not that I wanted to have a firefight, or be in one, but the fact that my guys were online and they did everything that they were supposed to do, and just happened that I was the one the grenade landed next to.
Did you realize you lost your limbs, or did someone have to tell you that? And was there a shock value to that, or is it just...
No, I woke up and they were gone.
In Philadelphia?
Yeah.
And did you cry? I mean, what happened?
No, I was not a happy camper, but I had woke up, which to me, when I woke up and I looked around and I could still knew what was going on around me, that I wasn't mentally changed, even though I didn't know what all had really happened at that point. It was, I've always looked at it that I was very lucky to live, because they taught me in boot camp that if I was that close to a hand grenade, that there was no way you were going to live, that it was just too powerful and it would kill you. Well, I proved that was wrong. Not that it couldn't have killed me, but the fact that I lived through it, and the fact that I could still think for myself, made all the difference. Because at first when I woke up, I didn't remember things. I didn't remember my family. I didn't remember my girlfriend. I didn't remember a lot of things. And when they would come to visit me, I would ask the nurse who these people were. I said, "Who are all of these people?" And they go, "Well, that's your family." And I go, "Oh, so then I know them." And they go, she said, "Yeah." So, and it wasn't long before it started coming back. And the doctor said that most of it would come back. And now some of my friends say that, no, it didn't. But anyway, but it was, I just always feel that I was a very lucky person, that I woke up, and that crying wasn't going to change what happened to me. And bitching wasn't going to change what happened to me. And I could still do what I wanted to do, as far as I was concerned. I knew it was going to be down the road. It wasn't like I'd jump up and let's go and start. But in all of the time since I've been hurt, I've done everything I've wanted to do. I met the woman that will probably be with the rest of my life. I hope to be. I'm just a very happy person.
Do you live Vietnam every day, or is it just...
I don't anymore. I used to wake up with nightmares early on, and my wife would have to get me back to reality. She would say, "Hun, hun," and I'd look at her and had no idea who she was. And then after she talked to me or whatever for a while, I would get back to where I was. But it only happened at night. It only happened when I was asleep. And I don't remember most of the dreams. I just woke up spaced out. But which I guess I think I'm lucky that way too, because it doesn't interfere in my life.
Do people thank you for your service to our country?
They do. It's kind of strange, because more so now than early on. Right after I got hurt, it was, and I know that I was the exception to the rule because of being a triple amputee. "Oh my God, what happened to you?" but they never said thank you. They always, well, what happened to you? You know, and but more so today, and since we've been in Iraq, I've had more people. Even yesterday, I went to get dinner, and a guy at the bar had been in the Marine Corps and thanked me. You know, and it's neat. It's, you know, I mean, you know, I always say we never got our parade, but you know, I'm not big on parades, but anyway, it's makes you feel good and makes you feel that you did the right thing and did good. Yeah.
Wow. You saw Forrest Gump?
Yeah.
Well, you weren't Lieutenant Dan then.
No, I wasn't Lieutenant Dan because I am.
That's unfortunate it was portrayed like that because people think that's a lot like Vietnam, but you weren't like that, so.
No, and I mean, and it's, I try to tell people when they say stuff about movies like Platoon and Full Metal Jacket and all of these Vietnam movies, it's a movie. It isn't what it really is. I mean, they have to make it what they do to sell the movie. But you don't, you know, it isn't like that. I mean, every patrol I went on, I mean, we didn't hit the enemy every time we went out. There would be weeks and weeks and weeks before you ever hit the enemy. That was just as scary as when you hit them because you didn't know. But you weren't being shot at every single day. You weren't, you know, not that you weren't in harm's way, but you weren't being, putting your life on the line every single day. And these movies make it like, you know, I don't even know how to explain it. They just, but it's Hollywood, and that's what they do.
I think I already asked you, but are you proud that you're a Vietnam veteran?
Yes, very proud. And I feel that I was there for the right reason, and that what I did made a difference, and that if I had to do it over again, I would do it. I wouldn't not do it because of what happened to me. I mean, we had to go there. It had to be done. Unfortunate in the outcome as far as the war part, but didn't make it any less necessary, I don't think. And everybody has their own opinions on whether or not we should be somewhere, but you know, the military changed my whole life, and obviously forever, but it didn't change me as a person, I don't think. I think I'm a better person, actually.
Can I ask you to do one more thing?
Sure.
I realize you don't have a right arm, but would it be appropriate to ask you to give me a salute into the camera with your left hand? Can you do that if I ask you?
I will do it, but I don't like doing it because you're not supposed to.
I want you comfortable with it.
Well, I can do it. I will do it, but see, I do these things on Memorial Day with my friends at the Legion.
Sure. No, I understand what you're saying.
And they always want me to salute. And I don't like doing it because you're not supposed to salute with your left hand, but I will do it.
I interviewed a World War II veteran. He had his hand, something that's wrong with his hand. He did a salute, and on the video I reversed it, so it looked like he was saluting with his right hand. I'm not saying
That's
I'm
cool.
going to do that, but I could do that. So
Okay. No, well, that's fine.
You saw the end of my other film. You saw the guys give salutes, but whenever you're ready, right into the camera. Great. Okay. Thank you. I want you to stay there.